How's it going, guys? Today's conversation on the Stupid Questions podcast is going to be with Caitlin Alexander. She is a doctor of physical therapy, a professional triathlete, a musician, and a number of other things. Definitely a voice for positive change in the community. So really appreciate her being on. Before we jump into the podcast, though, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Check out the links in the show notes for ways to support the pod, to follow Caitlin, to sign up for a newsletter, and all of those things. It continues to help grow the podcast and get the word out there. So if you are on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Most people do not do that who listen to the podcast, so I would love that if you could help build the podcast in that way. And if you are listening on the podcast platforms such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you could, I guess now you can like, comment, subscribe, follow, those things as well there. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much to Caitlin for jumping on. And without further ado, I do want to introduce you to Caitlin Alexander. You have done quite a few podcasts in the past?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. How have they been? That way I can gauge as we go along.
Pretty good. I mean, a lot of them are on like very specific topics, whether that's like physical therapy or bike fit or like my experience as a triathlete. But yeah, it's been great. I know a lot of the hosts that I've chatted with, so it's been more of just kind of like a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, hopefully this one stands out. We'll talk about some of those things, I'm sure, but obviously I want to get into the meat and bones of who you are a bit. But before I kind of just start jumping into it in the deep end, was spying on your Instagram, and I guess you went to Yaya Farms here recently?
Yeah. Yaya Orchard. I think it's like one of the only apple orchards in Colorado, which
Yeah.
it's a really cute orchard. It's pretty small. And when you live on the East Coast and you go to like an apple orchard, like I'm from Virginia, and apple orchards there are huge.
Huge, yeah.
And you can walk on the farm and like walk through the trees, pick any apples you want. There's like little regulation, but here you have to reserve it's like a you pick time. And a lot of the slots like fill up, so you can't really enter the orchard unless you like have a specific slot to pick your own apples. But the orchard's pretty small, so I think they limit how many people can pick their own.
Yeah.
But they have like a farmhouse and they sell apple related items, like apple butter, apple jam, apple cider donuts, apple cider.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was looking it up, I actually had an apple cider donut in my mouth from Trader Joe's as I was eating it. I was like, oh, this is after Mount Heart, because I'm from the East Coast as well. Just moved to California not too long ago and was born and raised in North Carolina, but we lived here for the past several years in Tennessee. And there's this place called Mercer Orchard, and it's kind of what you were talking about in Virginia. And it's just my favorite time of year. I love fall.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
It's awesome. But yeah, when you're from the East Coast and then you move like to the West Coast, fall's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you like living on West Coast versus East Coast? How many years did you spend East and then finally move West?
I grew up in Virginia. I was actually born in North Carolina.
Oh, no way. Where
in
at?
Charlotte.
Okay. Yeah.
But
lots of friends from around there.
I lived there for a couple years, and then I grew up in Virginia, like Central Virginia, and then I moved to New York City after college and lived there for about 6 years. And then I came out to Colorado for physical therapy school. So that's kind of how I ended up out here. And I always had wanted to move to Colorado because of the mountains. And CU, the Anschutz Medical Campus down in Denver, was my number one choice for school. And I got in and was super excited to move out here because I had really just spent my whole life on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So
any part of your heart that's calling you back east, do you think?
Every now and then, yeah. I mean, I don't have any family out here. All my family's in Virginia and DC. So, and they're pretty close to each other. Like my sister lives in Richmond, my brother's in DC, and my parents are in Stanton, Virginia, and they're all within like an hour or two of each other. So they get to see each other a lot more often than I get to see them. My parents were in town. They actually just left today. They were in town for the last 5 days visiting, and that was fun. But there are definitely some things I miss about Virginia. It's a lot greener than Colorado.
Yeah.
And like they do have mountains too. They're not as big, but they're older. So yeah, and I think just being in very close to a lot of different cities, like big cities that are within driving distance, is really nice. Out here, you kind of have to fly if you want to go anywhere else outside of Colorado. So
yeah. How do you feel about the culture of the Appalachians versus kind of the Rocky Mountain I guess, culture out there?
It's super interesting. I mean, everyone in where I'm from in Virginia is really, really nice. But it's also hard because I mean, like, the times now are very different than what they were in like the 90s and early 2000s. And that's kind of what I know from Virginia. But I mean, everyone in Colorado is really nice. I obviously moved here from New York City, and it's really a funny story. When I first moved out here, I went to the grocery store that evening to like get groceries, and I was walking through the aisles, and one of the sales associates comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, do you need any help like finding anything?" And like, coming from New York City, my gut reaction was to be offended that
Yeah.
he was like asking me if I needed help. I was like, do I look like I need help? Like, but then I was like, wait, people here are just actually nice
Mm-hmm.
and like want to help you. So that was funny. But I mean, Colorado these days is like, there are, especially post-COVID, a lot of transplants from like the Midwest, from California, from Texas. I had a couple friends from New York City actually move out here during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a little bit of a melting pot. And in that way, I wouldn't say that Colorado has like true like its own culture, if that makes sense, like a lot of other cities do, like Boston and like Philly and DC, but it's it's a beautiful place, and if you really like the outdoors, there are endless things to do out here. So
Yeah. Growing up, were you pretty outdoorsy?
I was definitely not like I was now. I mean, we would go on like family bike rides, and I would go do some hikes occasionally, but I really did not explore the mountains out there
Mm.
like I do out here. And um I go back like once a year for the holidays, and I'm like, I can't believe like I never rode my bike like on some
Yeah,
of
that's a
these
lot.
roads, and there's just a lot to explore that I like never really did. But being out here in Colorado, you definitely fall into the very like outdoorsy
Mm-hmm.
vibe here. There's not much to do in Colorado if you're not outside.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah,
So
since moving out here to California, I've started to, I guess, keep more of a specific tab on the things that like I really appreciate about out there. But the one thing you said that really resonates is like the green, the lush, the just the different. You get the humidity with that as well, but yeah,
yeah.
the mountains are different.
They're different. Yeah. I mean, things here get pretty brown pretty quickly. And we do get those peaks of green, like late spring, early summer when we've had some rain, but it is
Hmm.
dry. It's
Yeah.
very dry here. And the grass gets brown very quickly. You can spend a lot of water trying to water your lawn, or a lot of money trying to water your lawn and to keep it green, but it ultimately ends up brown.
Yeah.
And so every
Going
time I
brown.
go back, yeah, I go back to Virginia, I'm like, oh my gosh, the grass is so green. I forgot how green grass
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of background questions that I want to ask, but the question I think that I would love to start with today with you is the who question, and that is, who is Caitlin to you?
I think that is the answer is going to be pretty multifactorial.
Mm-hmm.
I think ultimately I would really classify myself as a helper. That's kind of what I've devoted my career to in the world of rehab. And it's something that really like brings me a lot of joy and fulfillment. But I've always been that kind of like jack of all trades, master of none. So
Mm.
maybe it's like the ADHD that I just like always need to be doing like different things, just to kind of keep life interesting. But I really do find joy in doing a lot of different things. So first and foremost, my priority is my work as a physical therapist. That's what I've devoted like my education and my career to. And that is always going to be like top of the totem pole.
Mm-hmm.
And then, all of my answers are like career oriented, but I'm definitely more than just a career person.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then, I do have my world as an athlete, and that also brings me joy, but it definitely takes like a step kind of in the back seat compared to the PT world. I am a wife. a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a dog mom, I'm a friend, all of those things I think a lot of us identify with. But I would say ultimately, like, I find the most joy and I feel like I am my true authentic self when I can really like show my value in terms of helping people.
Hmm. Are you
So
happy with who you are right now?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's ever evolving and ever changing. My career has like changed and or taken different paths in the last 10 years. And I think I've always been the kind of person to like go from one interest to the next. Like I'll kind of
Mm.
dive all in into one interest and then kind of lose the momentum and lose the passion and then pick a different route. But where I am now, I have been the longest. So I think that's a good sign that this is kind of I'm meant to be where I am,
Mm.
if that makes sense. And I'm always like I always leave the like maybe in 10 years I will be doing something completely different. I don't know. I'll be a different person, but I really like have settled nicely in Colorado and found like an awesome group of friends. I met my husband here. We've built like a pretty fulfilling life out here, and I just am kind of continuing with the work that I'm doing and establishing myself in the community.
Yeah. The well, it's interesting. So, how old are you, if I may ask first?
36.
Okay. So you've had a good experience of life, like you've started to hone in on what you're good at, what you like you said, your passions and interests. Going back, like even from when you maybe had the first recollection of just something you were really passionate about, do you remember kind of what age range that was and what that was?
Oh my gosh. Growing up, oh my gosh, I had like so many different passions and interests. I used to ride horses when I was younger, and that was like,
Okay.
I mean, this was when I was in like elementary school and middle school, and my dad grew up on a horse farm in Ohio, so it was always kind of
Okay.
in the family. But that was like my first like real passion, and I loved it. And I would, we never got to the point of like owning our own horse just because of
Oh, it's so
finances.
expensive. Yeah.
It's even leasing a horse is expensive. But that was like the first real thing. And then I I grew up like I did a little bit of running, ran cross country and track, and swam growing up, but none of those ever really like clicked in the same way until I found triathlon in high school. And I was always injured running. I was just like a chronically injured runner. And I loved the fact that I could cross train for the sport and I didn't have to run every day. So that was really where I kind of found triathlon, and then it kind of phased out of my life a little bit when I went to college because I really dived deep into music.
Good.
Another interest. I'm just going to
Yeah.
go through
No, I
all
want to
of
hear
the
all of
random
them. I
things.
love
They're
it.
not really connected in any way, but
They're connected through you.
through me, yes, exactly. I'm the center of the Venn diagram.
Exactly.
But but yeah, my whole like college career is devoted to like music and performing arts. And I think the people that I met through that I really connected with well.
Mm.
And and so, I did like musical theater, I did classical singing, I was in a jazz combo, and
Oh, that's awesome.
I loved that. That was like my whole life basically for like 4 or 5 years. And then I moved to New York City after college because I wanted to work in the music industry, and I wanted to work for like a nonprofit, ideally on the business side of things. And then I ended up working for a record label. I got a job doing like PR stuff for a record label, and it was just like one of the worst experiences.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds pretty draining.
It just was. I mean, it like the pay was so like I could barely like pay for groceries and pay for
Mm.
rent. And New York City is a hard place to live in when you can't afford the luxuries of the city. And so it was long hours, like the record industry was really interesting at the time because a lot of labels were merging with each other. And so there were just layoffs happening right and left. And you'd go into the office not knowing if you were going to get laid off that day. So it was just very like an
Sheesh.
unstable environment to be
Yeah.
in. And I was like, well, if I get laid off, I can't pay my rent next month. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a couple years, and that just kind of took the buzz out of me for music. And
Hmm.
I kind of like bounced around to different jobs, just doing kind of admin type work, and just really was not inspired. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm the kind of person where if I am not excited about what I'm doing at work, I am 0% productive.
Yeah. I'm
So
very similar.
yeah, yeah. And I dread going into the office every day and hated what I was doing. I was like, I feel like a monkey can do my job. Like,
Mm.
this is not fulfilling for me at all. And then triathlon started to come back a little bit because that was an outlet that was familiar for me in the past. And I joined a tri club in the city and met some awesome friends. And that just kind of like blossomed into something that I mean,
Yeah.
if I look back 10 years from now, I would have imagined that I'd be where I am
Yeah.
today.
Hmm.
So
I want to dive into the music a bit more because I love music.
I see the
Play,
guitar in your background.
yeah, like playing guitar, piano. The older I've gotten and become just, I guess, less ashamed of my voice or singing. It's just like such a beautiful experience to be able to like truly let go, whether you're performing or by yourself, like to have some of
Yeah.
those moments. So
Yeah.
I guess tell me two things. I want to ask two questions. Whenever you are like performing or listening to music, whatever it is, like, and you have the highest sense of just like emotion, like what is it that you feel? Then why do you love music? And then my second question is, have you still kind of fallen out of love with that? Has it started to come back? Do you want to pursue that ever again?
Those are great questions. There's definitely a huge dopamine release with music and performing, and even so I sing. That was my like specialty. And I'm not great at playing instruments, but I love singing, and even just like the physical feeling of singing is very cathartic for me. And um I don't know, I just get like a big dopamine release with that, and listening to music as well. I mean, there's so many
Mm,
emotions in music, and being able to like listen to it from an emotional perspective, but also from an analytical perspective, like when you've taken music theory classes,
mm,
it's just so interesting. And I I mean, it's still definitely a big part of my life. I don't really do much with my degree. I've sung for a couple weddings. I've sung the Star Spangled Banner at events.
let's go.
I
That's great.
know. I like part of me was like, should I like, for Boulder 70.3 one year, should I volunteer to sing like
You should.
but then I'm like, oh, at 6 o'clock in the morning, like the last thing I want to be doing is singing a song that's actually like very challenging
Yeah.
because of the whole octave range that it goes
Hmm.
through.
And then you're about to
So,
race nerves and all that stuff too, if you're not
oh,
racing.
I definitely would not race if I was gonna sing.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll sing in the shower, I'll sing in the car. I enjoy listening to music. My husband loves music. He's not, bless his heart if he listens to this, but he's not very musically inclined. So, but he enjoys and appreciates different forms of music and different genres of music. So I do love that about him. And I've definitely exposed him to different genres. Like jazz is a
Hmm.
big favorite of mine.
Yeah.
I grew up listening to jazz with my dad, and my brother's a jazz pianist.
Mm.
So, yeah, everyone in my family is musical, but yeah, I don't have like the same connection with my husband because he just doesn't have that same musical background.
Yeah.
But that's fine. And maybe one day I'll bring it back in a different capacity. I just hired a new bike fitter for my clinic where I
Okay.
work. And he is a pianist, and he studied
That's cool.
music. And so he was like, we should make a Hue performance band. Like,
Yeah,
you
do
should
a
come
little
in,
jam.
like, yeah, we'll do a little jam session together, like create some music. And I was like, I would love that. Like, that's something that would bring me a lot of joy, just to like get together with a couple musicians,
Mm.
instrumentalists, and just like jam together. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have to perform, we don't have to make it a big thing, but just like experiencing the music in that way and together, I think is really meaningful.
Hmm. So that answered both those questions really well. When you are singing in the shower and you're by yourself, do you sing songs that you know, or do you sing kind of what's on your heart? Like, are you a writer? Would you consider yourself?
I definitely wouldn't consider myself a writer. I sing mostly songs I know, and I think because there's some comfort in that. But you know, it could be like any kind of different genre depending on what my mood is for the day, or depending on whatever song I happen to overhear on the radio. Like I will sing the same song over and over and over again for like 3 days straight, and then never sing it again for like another year.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it's almost, it kind of feels more like kind of a stimming thing in a way, where like it's just kind of automatic and it's not something that I'm really thinking about, but I'm just kind of, it's because I think how cathartic it is. It's like, it feels good to sing. And so I'll just kind of do that over and over again throughout the day.
Yeah.
So
have you seen the movie Whiplash?
No,
Really?
I don't think so.
It's about the jazz drummer.
Yes, actually, I think I have, but years ago. It was released a bit ago.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was.
Yeah.
It's an older movie. I recently saw it, and I say recently, like in the past 6 months. Do you remember it at all? Like the plot
Vaguely.
line? Okay.
Vaguely.
Well, that's a bummer because I really love that movie. And I haven't been able to connect with somebody who kind of understands music enough to have some of those deeper conversations. But I'm going to try anyway because I really want to hear your take on it.
Go ahead and bring them on.
So in the movie, the whole premise and backstory is about like this up and coming jazz drummer, and he has the director of the band or whatever you call him, who is just like known to be really harsh, and like, he only has the best or whatever, and he pushes and pushes and pushes him, arguably way beyond what you should ever do, like just morally to a person. But the picture that is kind of painted is that, you know, you can only get someone to their best by almost like this abusive force of just like starvation of the person of affirmation to get there, which, you know, I struggled with because I've seen like a lot of famous, specifically like business leaders who, you know, they had really rough upbringings, and not that their parents or whoever was bringing them up or not bringing them up were trying to get like starve them, but it was in that starvation that drove them to do and create and to materialize quote unquote worldly success. So there's this concept like that's the only way to do it. And I don't think that that's totally true, but I wanted to get your take on it because you seem like a very passionate individual. You seem very driven. So I wanted to dive in a little bit to what drives you. Where does that come from? And then what do you think?
Well, you have to wonder if those CEOs, those entrepreneurs are like truly happy with what they're doing, because I feel like when you have that kind of like, it is kind of traumatic, that upbringing. There's definitely some trauma associated with that you carry into the rest of your life, and that's something that you know ideally you would work with someone to process all of that. But I mean, there's definitely like a parallel in sport too, where, you know, you have all these coaches that are pushing their athletes like to the very edge to get their best, to get those last couple percentage points. But what does that do for like their long-term health? And I'm definitely in the camp as like a healthcare provider of longevity and like wanting people to enjoy their passions, whether that's music or sport, for a long period of time. And so if you are in an environment where it is borderline abuse and it's getting to the point where it's just not fun anymore, and you're associating some trauma with that, like you could win your world championship, or you could get like a record deal, or whatever your like a goal, like top of the mountain goal is. But once you get there, what are you going to do? Like, you know, you're going to be so turned off from that environment that you never really want to associate yourself with it anymore? Or is it something that is still going to bring you joy for years, for decades to come? I highly doubt it is the latter. I mean, you see it all the time, like with athletes who maybe ran or swam or did some sort of sport in college, and they had coaches that were kind of maybe borderline abusive and pushed them to their max, and maybe they struggled with a lot of injuries, but then they graduate and they leave that environment and they just don't want to go back to that. I had a patient who, she's also a friend of mine, and she was training for I think she had qualified for the Olympic trials in the marathon, and she had hired a special coach out in Spain where she's from. And that coach was pretty much sent her into this like eating disorder spiral and told her she needed to lose weight and was pushing her to the edge. And she developed some pretty major health complications as a result of that, and she stopped running. She quit running.
Wow.
And and she just is uninspired to like go back into it. And she was actually really, really talented, and it is really a shame. She found another love in cycling, but it was just like, I hear stories like that all the time, and it just really pisses me off because I don't think, like, I think there are still ways to get to the top without sacrificing like your joy and your love for the sport, because ultimately that is what's going to bring you the most success and the most meaning, I think.
So you obviously have a lot of passion behind this, and, you know, wanting people to live like a healthy lifestyle. So I'm curious to know, where does that passion stem from? Like, have you had your own experiences personally that just really tore you apart?
I think just, I mean, as an athlete, we've all experienced injury and we've all experienced setback. And I think a lot of us that gravitate towards this kind of environment, like, it is really something that it's an outlet that we need. And when we don't have that, we can almost feel lost. It's kind of like a grieving process when you can't participate in the sport the way that you want to. And I've been through that many times. Like I said before, I stopped running because I was always injured and I hated it. And it didn't feel good. Like running doesn't feel good when it hurts. And so I know what it's like to be there and to not have that as your outlet or like part of your identity. And so my, like, being able to see people out there, like, going for runs, going for hikes, living their life, enjoying what they love to do, that is like ultimately what brings me a lot of joy. Just because I know what it feels like to not have that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty deep. That's a lot of stuff to chew on. And for some people, you know, I think that they can be so covered up in, like you're saying, just the negativity of, it's like when there's so much negativity, there's no light around you to be able to find the path forward. And then you end up kind of just sitting down and quitting and wallowing or finding something totally different.
Yeah. And I think, to kind of caveat on that, like, another part of the conversation is that a lot of us do tie a majority of our identity to, I'm just going to talk about sport, for example, because that's what it's the environment that I'm in, and that a lot of my patients are in. But that can also be very detrimental, because I don't know if you've like read a lot of Steve Magnus's writings or listened to any of the stuff that he's been on a bunch of podcasts and stuff, but he the way he explains it is very eloquent, and I'm not sure I can do the same. But basically, like, his point is that when you tie your entire identity to one outlet, for example, sport, and then all of the pressure is on performing, and maybe you have to make some money to like meet your cost of living, or you need to podium, you're trying to make it to the world championship. When you don't have anything else to fall back on, that can almost put the nervous system in like a freeze state that can really affect your performance. And it's almost like your nervous system is looking for an out if something is not going well. And it's really easy to just like crash and burn. But when you go into a race situation and you're like, well, I have this cool event I'm going to next week, or like, we just bought a puppy, or like, my wife is pregnant and we're going to have a baby in a couple months, like other things to look forward to tie your identity to, it takes some of the pressure off and allows you to be a lot more relaxed and to be able to perform better. And then when you get into these cycles, when you're injured and maybe you can't participate to your liking, having something else you can fall back on, maybe it's a hobby, or maybe it's your job, or maybe it's your role in your family, something like that can give you some meaning and value to your life, is so important in terms of your mental health. So
yeah, that's profound. I haven't read any of his stuff. I'll have to check it out, but I have been doing a lot of thinking just on a kind of personal level of this, you know, the identity question. And a question I've asked a lot of times in the past, like, he was like, oh, you know, if you were to not be able to do whatever it is your profession is right now, if something happened and it cut you off, how would you do? And hearing people, how they react, you can kind of tell where their identity is. And I'm kind of leaning toward this belief or this framework mentally, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but that I don't think, I'm almost wondering if it's worth tying my identity to even multiple things or anything at all. I mean, other than what my values are, because like my values can be transplanted into any profession or anything. And those are the things that make up who I am. And you can kind of plug those in as you see fit. But it's like whenever I start to, I don't know, with religion, you know, people, they get into this, oh, I'm this. And then if anything comes contrary to that and it's uncomfortable to like consider other thoughts or whatever, because it's who they are, they feel like it's an attack on them rather than on this thing that they think might be subscription to. And that's the same with
Yeah.
sport. That's the same with music. It's the same with food. It's the same with literally anything.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, um, I think it's healthy to be able to tolerate and respond well to change. I mean, life changes, our ecosystem, our environment is changing constantly. And if you're just kind of stuck in your own patterns of belief or like physical rituals, you're going to have a really hard time adapting to the changing times. And so in any aspect. And so I think, I mean, that's kind of why as a species, we have evolved to be who we are today, because we are so good at adapting to changing environments, changing circumstances, evolutionarily. And I think in terms of like survival, it's necessary.
So, kind of piggybacking off that a little bit and some of the things we're talking about, just the belief systems and whatnot, I want to make a couple assumptions. And if they're incorrect, feel free to like slap me across the face and be like, this is not how it is at all. But these are
virtual slap.
Exactly. These are observations, assumptions that are going to kind of inform this question that I ask. But if I'm wrong, like, feel free to tell me so. So I don't know you super well. I've known you for 30 minutes now, you know, talking face to face. You're obviously like an influence in the sport. So I have heard your name come up in different little conversations or seen, you know, posts here on Instagram. And the ones that stick out are like the ones where, and I can't even truthfully remember like a specific instance, but I have known like, well, Caitlin, she's pretty passionate about this and she can gain some real intense followers and haters. So with that, you know, people often will kind of black and white people and they'll throw them into one camp or the other without truly knowing and understanding who they are. So first, that's my assumption, and you can feel free to, you know, talk about that. But the question that I wanted to attach it is, what is something difficult that you go through that people don't often see when they kind of more from the hater camp come at you?
That's a good question. I actually don't get too many haters online unless it's something political. But I mean ultimately, and I mean, I don't really want to get into politics, but I was never like a political person. Like I didn't give a shit about politics. But I think where a lot of my passion stems from is that I think it's a justice sensitivity thing. And I think that kind of also goes along the ADHD route, is when I see people suffering or being marginalized, or I see their rights being taken away, then it's like it causes almost like a visceral kind of reaction. It's very hard
Just
to explain.
disgust. Yeah.
Like pain, like visceral pain for me, like I experience what other people are experiencing. And I think some of that is maybe more of like an empath thing. And that kind of ties into my role as a PT too. But, you know, I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of family from all different walks of life. And ultimately, I just want people to feel like they belong. And I want people to feel like they have their rights, and they, you know, somebody's not like, the government isn't taking them away. And you know, that is like ultimately what it stems from. And if that is like a political thing, then let it be a political thing. But I never really saw it in that way. And like when I see people hurting, that hurts me physically. And so it just makes me super, super passionate, and which can almost be to a fault, about some of this stuff.
Not to beat a dead horse, but like obviously, like I can sense, even like when you're talking about this, like you feel it very deeply. Where does that come from? Like most people don't have that. I am like kind of more of the not as empathetic. I'm working on my empathy, but not as empathetic typically of a person, and I'm something I have to work on. And then you seem to like really have a deep sense of empathy toward others. Like where's that coming from?
Not really sure, honestly. I think a lot of it is comes from the ADHD, but I think part of it maybe also stems from like childhood and always being a little bit misunderstood, not quite fitting in with like social circles and having like a little bit of trauma with that. But um, yeah, that's kind of my best explanation for that.
Can I ask about those things?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's kind of comes along with the ride when you're like late diagnosed ADHD or any kind of like neurodivergence, and you kind of spend your whole life like not knowing um why you're a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So what happened when you were younger that made you think like I am different? Was it like a bullying thing or
yeah, give me a second.
you're fine? I think it's really good to cry, by the way. There's no shame in it whatsoever.
Yeah, I think everybody has experiences when they're younger
Sure.
um and they go through the bullying, but it's like when you're little, you just don't understand
Mm-hmm.
why people make you feel that way. And when you learn later on in life, like the reason, it just like makes so much sense. But it's hard to, like, I wish I could go back and tell my younger self to like not be afraid to be who I am
Mm-hmm.
and tell her she's doing just fine. So
I think you're doing just fine, Caitlin.
thank you.
Childhood stuff's deep. It's hard because, yeah, I mean, I'll just share a little bit just so I don't put you on the spot as much. But, um, so I'm short. I got picked on for being short, but and I don't think that would have bothered me near as much if I didn't have the other stuff going on at home with just like mom and dad fighting. I don't know if you know, but like my dad passed away when I was 16 by his own hand situation. So, that adds a layer of complexity. So it's like all these different things that we go through. Not to compare, my story with yours in any way, but just to say, like, when you go through those things, and then kids are mean because hurt people, and then you have the lack of frontal lobe development, kids going and picking on other kids, and then adults who don't grow up, they do the same thing. It's super hurtful, and yeah, I understand a little bit more why I think you love music so much is because it's a form of expression and helping you get in touch with those things. For me, the easiest place I can connect with what's going on internally is usually behind the keys of a keyboard or behind
Yeah.
the strings of a guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely having that outlet is so important.
Yeah. How are you doing right now? Like, what's taking up the most mental bandwidth for you? Like, obviously, I'm touching on some very sensitive nerves, and I want to be sensitive to that. But I like that you feel comfortable enough to like have these conversations. Obviously,
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings
yeah,
just in general.
yeah,
But I mean, right now I'm focused on like building my business in Colorado. I own a physical therapy clinic and I do bike fit as well. So we have a bike fit studio there. And also kind of trying to play the pro triathlete card along the side.
yeah.
But it's definitely a challenge to balance both of those. And I kind of go through phases where I want to give one more attention at the other, and then I kind of switch and want to give the other one a little more attention. And it's kind of hard to find a balance. I don't think it will ever be perfect, but
Sure.
both of those things bring me a lot of joy. And if I can, like I was chatting with you before, having those two different outlets, I think is really healthy. And
Mm.
so just kind of not putting all my eggs in one basket um, and just kind of letting those grow and manifest and in any way, and we'll kind of see where things go with them.
Yeah. Who do you reach out to, you think, the most to kind of bounce ideas and seek, guidance or mentorship from? Do you have a few people that you do that with?
I do. I definitely have some just like colleagues and friends who actually helped me a lot when I was starting the business. A couple PT school classmates who did something similar. So I kind of had a lot of conversations with one of my friends, Alice, who owns her own clinic down in Denver. She's kind of doing something very similar to what I started. And so just mostly chatting about, I mean, there's so many logistics involved with starting your own business.
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
especially like I don't really consider myself like an entrepreneur. Like I never imagined I would be a business owner, at least not for like a long, long time. And so there's a lot of learning on the spot and kind of figuring things out as I go. And it's been a wild ride, but I've loved it because I mean, owning your own thing in whatever capacity that may be, it really feels like all of the work you put into it is an investment on yourself, and it just feels more rewarding. And I feel like I'm learning a lot of really useful skills that will be super, super helpful, like for the next couple of decades. And yeah, and so colleagues that I have just kind of collaborated with or consulted with have been really helpful. But I asked my husband for a lot of advice, and he is probably one of the most like level-headed people you could meet. And he just kind of tells it like it is. And sometimes that's exactly what I need. And he always has like really, really great advice. And it always ends up being like the right path.
Yeah.
And so when I'm feeling like really down or like I'm hit this crossroad and I'm like, I'm not sure which way I should go, like I always ask him, and he always just helps kind of like calm me down and like and help me be like a little more rational, and helps me figure out, okay, these are the pros and cons here, these are the pros and cons here, like what is going to be the best choice for you. So he was really instrumental in helping me build this business, and he actually is the one who wanted me to start this all. Like, because I was working at a clinic for 4 years and doing something very similar to what I'm doing now, but I was working for someone else, and it was a really, really great experience, and I learned so much. But there were a lot of like logistical things that were really challenging, especially as I wanted to pursue triathlon in a competitive way. And it just started to become just like not very feasible for the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And he was like, you need to quit your job. Like you need to start your own thing. Like, I think you'll really be successful. Just like trust me on this. And I was like really, really scared to like make that jump. But having him like kind of be there to catch me if I fell was, I think, the reason why I felt like I could take that leap.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's so special that you have that, and that you feel like you can take his advice. I know that that's not something that everybody has. Like, that's super special.
Yeah. I am very, very lucky. I acknowledge that.
Yeah. Since you've made the jump, like that's, you say you don't consider yourself an entrepreneur. I would say you definitely are, with the level of hats, the number of hats that you have to wear to make something like that work. But what have you learned about yourself as a leader? And like, since you've had to, learn how to navigate this new world?
I think I'm still learning how to be a good leader. I think it's something that I will always continue to work on. I give a lot, almost like to a fault, but I love, love, love educating. And so like for example, I hired Tom, who's like an amazing bike fitter, and he's like the only other employee I have. Otherwise the business is just me. And I just like, my gut reaction is just to impart all of this knowledge on him. I just want him to learn all of these things so he can work like and like help people in like the best way, like to like kind of maximize the work that he does with people, with clients. And I think that also kind of bleeds into like what I do online with social media. And I don't do that as much anymore. I definitely did a little more during COVID and after COVID in terms of like the education. But I think there is just a basic level of information that everyone should know about their body, and a lot of people don't know. And so I think in terms of like being a leader, I definitely don't see myself as one. I like to be more of like an educator, I guess. although they both could kind of be one and the same, but
usually the best leaders don't want to be leaders or don't see themselves as such. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
How did you meet your husband? What's his name? And tell me that story.
His name's Brian. I met him actually through a friend of a friend here in Boulder. I was still in PT school, and he had moved to Boulder to run professionally after college. And my friend lived in Boulder at the time, and we actually met at a barbecue, and it was very like unplanned. My friend was dating his roommate at the time, and he wanted to go to my friend's house just for a little cookout, and Brian was going to drive him there because he didn't have his own car. And Brian really didn't want to go to the cookout, but like, he was like, well, if I'm going to drive him to the cookout, I might as well go too. And then he went to the cookout, and I was there as well. And it was just kind of like the rest is history.
Yeah.
So
did you notice him first, or did he notice you first, you think?
I think he noticed me first, like when I walked out of the house into the backyard. But then we all sat down at a table to eat, and I sat across from him, and I was trying to like make conversation with him and just kind of like ask him questions. And it's really funny. He was actually just being so rude to me because he just like, I think he was really, really nervous. That's what he says, at least now. But he just like wasn't interested in talking to me and like didn't really want to look me in the eye. And I was like, okay, this guy like is like being really weird. I don't know what is going on. Like, did I offend him in any way? I have no idea. But yeah, he says now he was just really, really nervous and like didn't want to like mess up or like come off as being stupid or something like that, which I think is kind of charming. But
yeah, he was overtaken by you. That's what it was.
I guess. Yeah.
How long have you been married?
It'll be going on 2 years in like next month, but we've been together for like 5.
Yeah. So you definitely know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. He's kind of been by my side through a lot of different like life changes in the last like 5 years or so, just with graduating PT school, starting a job, lots of moves, quitting my job, starting my own business, all of those things. So yeah.
Has your idea or like definition of what it means to be a wife changed since like before you got married to when you're married post 2 years or being in a relationship for 7?
Things are kind of the same. Yeah. Honestly, like pre-post marriage, which I think probably they should be. Yeah. I mean, and we definitely see each other as equals, and he helps with a lot of things around the house, which is super helpful for me because I'm just really, really busy. He cooks most of the dinners. He's an amazing cook, but he's just like, he's always offering like a supporting hand whenever I need it. And he's kind of like taught me to kind of do the same too, which is sometimes hard for me when I'm just so busy and caught up in a lot of other things. But yeah, he's just super patient, and like you said, he's kind of like, yeah, I feel really, really lucky to have found him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What does he do?
So he works for Lever, which maybe you've heard. They
like
are
the running. Okay, nice.
They're like a body weight support system for the treadmill. So he does a lot of different things for them. It's kind of like working in a startup environment. Everyone has different roles. Yeah. So he's been doing that for a couple years. He actually started out with them building the units like in 2021, in 2020, before anyone even knew who they were, and they were brand new. And he was like in the warehouse just building out units for them because they needed help. And that's how it started. And now he's like one of the main guys there. So
that's so cool. They are based in Boulder, or is it just like some operations there? Yeah.
In Boulder. Yep.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I love the startup stories. Maybe I have to reach out to them to get the founder story on that, because I've seen a lot of videos of that. Who runs it?
So Brad Miles and Ryan Ognebeen, so Ryan's like the engineer side of it, and Brad is more like the idea side of things. Yeah. But yeah, they both kind of are like the co-founders. Yeah. So cool. Brian would be a good person to chat with. Not Brian, Brad. Sorry. Yeah.
I wrote down the names. Cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back to family a little bit. with your trajectory, because like I have kind of some of it figured out. Like you were in high school, going into college, you decided to go music performance route, then you kind of moved away from that, then you went to PT school after, right?
Yes.
Okay. So like going back to like getting ready to leave high school and you're thinking about what the future is, was it always the music focus?
Like leaving high school?
Yeah, like
You
when you were
mean?
choosing like what your college career post high school, figuring out what my life's going to be, did you have a pretty clear direction, and what part did your family play in that?
I didn't have a super clear direction, no. I really didn't know what I wanted to devote my focus to just because I had a lot of interests. My parents were always really supportive. They didn't really kind of coerce me into going into any specific direction. They
Hmm.
just wanted me to like um to basically get my college education.
Yeah.
So I got into like when I first started, I went to University of Virginia in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I really got into the music scene pretty early on, and I think that kind of like led me down the path that I ended up taking
Yeah.
in music and performing arts, and I wouldn't trade it for the world because I it brought me so much joy and I loved it. And even though I don't really use the degree to this day, I still think a lot of the skills that I learned can
Mm.
be translated to other fields
Yeah.
of profession. I mean, there's a lot of analytics, there's a lot of critical thinking in music, and so I think it's just made me a little more of a well-rounded person. And maybe, you know, if I have a patient who comes in who's a musician, I can chat and relate with them on a different level.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
So I think not taking the super traditional route into PT school, I think has been more of a blessing than anything else.
Just because you have more life experience and appreciation for other things before you go
Yeah,
into it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. If you could marry, like find and I hesitate to say a job, but like a type of line of work that could marry all of these things into one, I don't know, maybe it's an event or like a weekend, like would you be interested in doing that?
Oh, if you can find a way to do that, please let me know. There's the field of music therapy, that is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, you're able to kind of help people process things through music. I don't I don't know if that's something that like truly inspires me in a way that it should if I wanted to pursue that route, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, music, um, healthcare, it's those are trying to
Yeah.
blend those into a one simple thing is I don't know, I
It's
haven't seen
definitely
it
not
yet.
simple. Yeah, no, it's definitely not simple, but I'm just so fascinated with like the concept of, like you're saying, music therapy, but the ability for music to tap into obviously helping unlock or like open the floodgates to emotion. And a lot of times, like I'm sure you know this is a PT, like a lot of people can carry stress throughout their body
Yeah.
that is mental and emotional that turns into physical problems. Like the body just kind of locks up, like my shoulders are always need
Yeah.
work. So like,
Yeah.
yeah.
My college roommate, one of my best friends, Martha, she is a professional opera singer in Germany, and
Wow.
I coached her in running for a little bit, like a couple years ago, and she actually did one sprint triathlon. She is the only opera singer I know who has ever done a triathlon, which I think is
That's legit.
amazing.
Yeah.
But she's actually like everyone should go follow her on social media. She's Martha Eason Soprano, and she has done such a beautiful job at, I mean, her music for her is a sport, and the way that she talks about like her training, her recovery, getting ready for a performance, like navigating injury with just in terms of her voice as her instrument,
Mm.
and how important like movement and health and nutrition is for all of that, kind of in the same way that we talk about all of those things for sport and performance. It's very, very like a lot of parallels and a lot of similarities. And she's done such an amazing job at promoting health and fitness in that musical world, in the classical opera world, because it's not, those two things never really mixed. And she's inspired a lot of her colleagues, like in her opera company, to be active and to run and to like
Helps you
do
sing
have
better, I feel like.
yeah,
Cardio.
it has helped her so much, not just for like her vocal capacity, but also helps kind of like warm things up. I would always sing the best after I like went for a run,
Same.
and just kind of helped like get things moving, help warm up the vocal cords. But she's done such an amazing job just in terms of like being a leader and I guess quote unquote an influencer in that community.
Yeah, in that world. I'll have to link it. Martha Eason Soprano, you said?
Yeah.
We'll definitely link her. I'll check it out. That's kind of cool.
A little plug for her. Yeah. The stuff she's doing is really cool.
Yeah. So with the PT stuff, I want to go back to that. Is it like self-pay model or do you take insurance?
We are cash-based.
Okay. That's awesome.
So
it's the future, I think. Yeah.
I think so too. And for better or for worse, because I know that it really shuts out a lot of people who maybe can't afford to pay cash. But it allows me to do what I do to a much deeper level because I'm not confined and constrained by insurance company regulations in terms of what they're going to reimburse for. I think the healthcare provider should always make the decisions about a patient's plan of care. It should not be the health insurance companies, but in an in-network model, it is because they won't reimburse for certain things. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. So we obviously try to make things as affordable as possible. A lot of times patients that come to see me will see me once a week or once every couple weeks or once a month. And I give them a lot of homework to do on their own at home. And a lot of what they do is they can do themselves. So they don't have to come in to see me 2 or 3 times a week for 6 weeks, which is like the standard plan of care in an in-network environment. And I think that helps a lot give the patient autonomy and some independence over their health. And I think ultimately when you can get to that stage, you can feel empowered to like get yourself better and to kind of take control of your health as a whole. And you will have more success. The outcomes will be better.
Yeah.
So, so we're cash-based. These days for in-network environments, you have a copay. Sometimes you get hidden bills from the insurance companies. And, if you're going in twice a week for 6 to 8 weeks, versus coming to see me once every couple of weeks, you in the long run end up paying less to come see me than you would to go to an in-network in a lot of instances.
Yeah. So,
and it just has allowed me to like practice the way I want to practice and to actually spend one-on-one time with patients for like the full time that they're a full appointment time.
Yeah. They're not just a cog running through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. So my wife's a nurse practitioner, and during one of her clinical rotations, she did one with a self-pay primary care office, which was like a very new and novel thing in Chattanooga. And then there's a self-pay cash-based PT clinic here. And so I've gotten a little to look inside, and I think that's really, I'm hopeful that grassroots kind of movement continues to grow, that it almost shifts the industry. Healthcare in general, I mean, it's such a behemoth of a massive growth system when you include insurance. And like I know plenty of good doctors, but they're so almost brainwashed into it. Okay, we bring them in. All right, what's wrong with you? All right, here's your 12 symptoms. Here's a pill to deal with that, and maybe try to eat healthier. But other than that, all right, good. We'll see you in 6 weeks, 2 months.
I know. I mean, you're totally right. My dad is a doctor, and he works in internal medicine, and he says the problem is that a lot of times that's what patients want. And especially, if you're
trained to want it,
if you're in a more rural environment, they just want a quick fix to get better. But the reality is that it's a lifestyle change. It takes a lot of work and a lot of consistent effort to make those changes. And for some people, they just don't have like the mental or physical capacity, or they've got time or financial restraints, some sort of blocker that it just makes it feel like it's physically impossible to make those changes towards a healthier lifestyle. So I think it's just, as a whole, it's just a problem with our entire healthcare system here, and it's a shame. I mean, but actually, Utah, I was just reading this today, they actually made a legislative change. They're the first state in the country to make this change, that actually is classifying physical therapists as primary care providers.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
So how does that, go for it.
In a lot of states now, we have moved towards what's called a direct access model, meaning patients don't need a doctor's referral to go see a physical therapist. So most states, I believe there are still a couple that might require referrals, but most states in the United States are direct access states. So patients can go directly to a physical therapist without a referral, which is really,
That's
really
cool.
helpful. And I think takes a lot of strain off of the healthcare system, because oftentimes patients will make an appointment with their doctor and maybe they might have to wait a couple weeks to get in to be seen. They're dealing with some knee pain. The doctor says, okay, we're going to prescribe you physical therapy. Here's your referral. And then it might take another week or two to get in to see a physical therapist for an initial evaluation. And by that point, it's been 4 to 5 weeks that they haven't been able to be seen. And
Is
these
that a
days,
law, by the way? Where like you have to see a primary to get a referral before you can just make an appointment with such and such? If it's is that an
it
insurance rule or?
it is, I think, yes. But it was that way in every state at one point. And then little by little over the last decade too, as like our national governing body has done a good job at lobbying on our behalf, that has changed. But Utah was the first state to actually classify physical therapists as primary care providers, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
And just kind of helps our profession give us a little bit more autonomy to like diagnose and treat musculoskeletal conditions.
Neat.
So
what are you most excited for coming up here in the future? You have anything that you're giddy about, or is it more stress?
I was always a little bit of stress. I mean, we're going to Kona this year, which is actually awesome. I'm not racing, but Brian is going with Lever. They're going to have a booth at the expo.
Cool.
So I'm really excited to go to Kona and enjoy it. not worry about racing
it. Yeah.
racing an Ironman. So I'm really excited about that. But I may or may not do another race at the end of the year personally, but other than that, I think I'm taking a little bit of downtime from like structured training and just trying to like find my groove again, and trying to put a little bit less stress and pressure on myself and just kind of see where that goes. So
has the fire started to dwindle a bit on the triathlon profession?
This summer has been a little bit rough. Most of the season has been a little bit rough, and it's just, I haven't had like a good explanation for why. I mean, there's been a lot of like life things that have happened, and that always kind of causes some subconscious stress.
Sure.
Even if you don't like realize it in the moment.
Oh yeah.
But I really struggled to find my groove this summer in training, and just like not feeling like myself as an athlete, and like struggling with motivation to go into sessions, and struggling with like actually feeling good. And so I went through a period where I was like, I don't fuck it. I'm just going to push it. Like, I don't care. Like I don't care what my recovery score is. Like, I don't care what my training stress is. I'm just going to like,
how'd that go?
Just terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. It made it way, way, way worse. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, I'll hold back a little bit and actually like take a deep breath and figure out like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I did Ironman Kalmar in Sweden a couple weeks ago, and it was okay. I think considering like how crappy the summer's gone, it was a good step in the right direction. But I definitely finished the race and was like, oh, this is like, I don't know if I want to do another Ironman this year.
Huge, yeah.
There's just a lot. I mean, I've done so many of them, and it's like, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, it's like when you've made a lot of progress and you're looking for those like last couple of percentage points, it is like the closer you get, the harder it gets. And so it just feels like it's getting harder and harder to get where I want to go. And I'm like, okay, like, is this something that I really want? Like, is this something that I really want to devote so much time and energy to? Like, so just like, yeah, kind of like a mid triathlon career life crisis sort of thing.
Yeah. So you think it's going to be maybe taking a break for a bit, time that's going to give you the clarity on what you want to do?
Maybe. I think right now I love the day-to-day of training, and I love the just the feeling of like accomplishing something every day, even if it's something small, and the schedule that goes along with that. And so I think I'm just going to continue moving, obviously, and maybe it will be with some structure, maybe it will be without, just kind of figuring out like what I want to do that makes me happy. And I think if you want to be successful as an athlete, like you have to be happy on the starting line. And if you're not, if there's something else going on in life or you're stressed, it's going to be really, really hard to perform to your full potential.
Thanks for sharing that. Last couple of questions. I'm curious, do you believe in a higher power? Are you a religious person or a spiritual person?
That's a great question. I mean, I grew up in the Catholic Church, grew up in a religious family. The town that I'm from is like a small town in the South. Everyone went to church on Sundays. That was just the thing that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of corruption in the church that we went to. And I didn't know about this until like I was like way removed from it, like post college. But yeah, we had some issues with the priest and from some of the teachers for our Sunday school that had done some not very great things. And so I think that kind of tarnished the church for me in a way. And even when we were in Virginia and we were going to the church, I mean, the priest would like give homilies on like condemning people for wearing jeans to going to when they went to church and like things like that just seemed
That's the South for you.
Very, very, yeah, like not inclusive at all. And I was like, this just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And so I mean I've had good experiences at other churches too, but I just think I don't know, that kind of did it for me.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't necessarily say that like I definitely am not like atheist. I just don't, it's not like a big part of my life. And I know it is for other people. And I have like nothing against that at all. I've like some of my best friend, like one of my best friends in high school got a master's in theology. And her father's a minister. So I think that as long as you are just just a good human, like there are amazing Christians out there who are super inclusive and like care about other people. And I think that is like what the church should be like, but it's just, I don't know. I think that just my experience in the Catholic Church has kind of tainted some things for me. And so I've just kind of found myself over the last like 5-10 years, just kind of like removing myself slowly from that kind of environment. But yeah.
Do you think as you get older, it might ever change? Not even necessarily with like religion, but like the concept of, I don't know, seeking a relationship with, if there is a higher power.
I mean, I'm open to it for sure. And I mean, my husband is Latino. He grew up in Mexico. Catholic Church and religion is very strong there. My mom's from Venezuela. Like we have a lot of like Latino culture in our family, and religion and God is like very, very,
yeah, it's a big
very,
piece
very
of
important for that. Yeah. So I mean, I definitely would be open to it in the future, but I just don't see it right now fulfilling like a void in my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for answering that question. It's always interesting to hear what people say. I think I've asked that question probably on at least 50% of the episodes. And I'm beginning to think I understand why Catholicism is the world's largest religion. Because like so many people say, I would have guessed that, which I guess statistically that's how it works. But
yeah, it's super. And I know Catholicism isn't all of Christianity, and there's so many different churches, but
sure.
Yeah. But well, yeah,
you're going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say I have a lot of friends who kind of had a similar trajectory in that way. Like grew up in the Catholic Church, went to Catholic school, all of those things. So it's definitely super interesting.
Yeah. The most reoccurring story I hear across all different, I guess, denominations or religions has been, because I grew up Christian, Seventh Adventist Christian, but a lot of my friends who have kind of quote unquote left the church, it kind of is because of the same reasons that you've kind of stated. Corruption, they were kind of looking up to this person and then they did something crazy and then they're like, okay, I don't want anything to do with this. which,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest, like, it seems a bit sad, because one thing that I feel like I learned a little bit younger was just this idea, and I don't even know necessarily what taught it. Maybe it was just some of the crazy trauma things, but to be able to, it's really hard to do, and I'm not good at it, but to be able to look at a belief system or a set of values and subscribe to those, apart from like the people who say they believe in those things. Because I mean, even as kids, you know, how we learn everything, our parents can tell us everything to the moon and back, but it's really what they do that we end up modeling. It's just how we're made and created. So it's like, it's really hard to
Yeah.
separate those from, oh, they said these values are important. Okay, maybe they are, but they didn't model those values. So then it's like this really hard thing
Yeah.
to marry in our head.
Yeah, it's that like paradox that's like, okay, well, they're saying this, but they're acting this way. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, final question for you. Piece of advice for listeners. If people out there, some of them may feel like they are the odd one out, or don't fit, or just are a little confused on, you know, who they are, what advice would you give to them to find peace with who they are and acceptance of that?
That is a really great question. That's a very deep question. I would say, you know, peace and acceptance comes from happiness. And I think, obviously, like, that should be something that is intrinsic, but we are very social people. And like our species is super social, and finding that community, I think, is so, so, so important. We weren't meant to like live alone and to fight our battles alone. So my best piece of advice is just to kind of continue carving out your path, and you will find your tribe along the way.
Keep keeping on.
Yeah,
I know
keeping on.
it's totally a biblical quote, but to seek, like, you will find. I really believe that, no matter what you believe.
100%.
Like, you keep looking for stuff, yeah, you'll find it. So good
You'll
advice.
find it. Your people will come along.
Yeah.
So
beautiful. Well, Caitlin, thank you so much for sharing in the way that you did and being vulnerable in the way that you did. I wish you all the best, and would love to have you on again in the future. But yeah, just thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Seth.
What a good conversation. Thank you, Caitlin, for coming on. It's really cool to have these conversations, as I say, every week. For new levels, though, today, her being willing and open to show some real emotion with the things that she's gone through on the podcast. I don't want to brush over that, because it's uncomfortable. I mean, it is. Whenever you are in a place to display what you're going through, like, it's an uncomfortable thing, but I think it's really good for us all to learn how to do a little bit more, especially even in the public eye. Obviously, there's appropriate forums to do it, and I think that this is one of those, because it gives a deeper look into who that person is and what they're going through. You know, when we're all online and we're commenting and talking back and forth, even with me and my work, like with Slack, you lose without the face-to-face conversation and being able to read the facial expressions and the mannerisms and the tone of which things are said. The humanity can obviously be lost in the weeds. So I really appreciate the opportunity, I guess is what I'm saying, that Caitlin was able to come on and feel comfortable enough to get real and raw about some stuff that she's been going through. And do wish her all the best. She's obviously an entrepreneur, regardless of what she thinks. And yeah, I'm just so thankful to have people on this podcast every week, multiple times per week, to hear stories and to get real with people. I'm learning a ton. It's very unfair for how much gain and value I get out of these conversations, but I hope that you guys can pull some of the same value out as well. So thank you for being here. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.